All right, so we're on page 273, book 12. Where's Odysseus right now in book 12?
Isn't he back at what's it called place?
Yes, what's her name?
Music place there?
Starts with a C. Circe, yes, he's back at Circe's island. Where has he just come from? From the underworld in book 11, yes. Sent there to find out how he'll be able to get home. Now Circe's going to send him on his way. What have Odysseus and his men already taken care of in book 12? There was one thing that they had to do, they found out about in book 11. Right, they had to bury Elpenor, so they did that. And now what's Circe telling him? She started telling him, in 272, right, she's telling him, here's what you have coming up. And the first thing that she's already mentioned on pages 272 and 273, what does she tell him about? What's the first thing that he's going to encounter? What does she talk about here?
The sirens?
Yes, the sirens. What's the deal with the sirens? Their island. What does Odysseus have to do or not do? Yes, they're spellbinding. How do they accomplish this? How do they cast their spells? By singing. So what does Odysseus have to do? How?
Are these the singing sirens?
Yes. Yeah, so what does she tell Odysseus to do on pages 272 and 273? To tie himself to the mast of the ship.
What's that mast?
The mast? It's the mast of a ship.
The big,
Yeah, is this big
that one in the middle.
vertical pole that holds the sail.
Oh.
Okay, this is the mast here. So to tie himself to that, why?
So high enough so he can't get or the wind?
Not to prevent him from hearing them.
From going to
Right, so she says, if you want to listen, fine, tie yourself, have your men tie you up on the mast so you can't swim to them. And what should he do? What should he have his men do? What does she tell him? Top of 273?
over the ears.
Not just cover them.
Beeswax.
Yes, put beeswax in their ears. Plug their ears so they can't hear this song.
What is it? Beeswax?
Beeswax? Like the what bees' nests are made out of? It's soft. You can make candles out of it. If you hold it in your hand and it gets warm, it gets pretty soft and squishy. So you could shape it, and then you could stick it in your ear, and you can mold it to fit your ear and really block out a lot of sound. I'm sorry? Yeah, it's edible. I mean, it doesn't really taste good. But. All right. And what happens after the sirens? She's on 273. But once your crew has rowed you past the sirens, what?
Wait, why is he up there then?
So this is where he's going to have to go after leaving Circe's island. She's telling him how to get home from her island. So first thing he's going to have to pass by is the sirens. It's the first danger here. What's the next thing? What does she say in line 61 and following? Right, there are two paths that he can take from the sirens. Okay, what's one of them? The first one that she tells him about. It's the last thing that we read last week on 273. Sorry?
Is it the one side being cliff?
Yes, these cliffs. What are they called? The clashing rocks. And what happens with the clashing rocks? What does she say? They're on 273. You read from line 69 and continuing.
Nothing can
I'm sorry?
Nothing can pass.
Nothing gets past them. Not even birds can escape them. No, not even the doves that veer and fly ambrosia home to Father Zeus. Even of those, the sheer rocks always pick off one, and Father wings one more to keep the number up. No ship of men has ever approached and slipped past. Always some disaster. Big timbers and sailors' corpses whirled away by the waves and lethal blasts of fire. One ship alone, one deep-sea craft sailed clear, the Argo, sung by the world when heading home from Aegean shores. And she would have crashed against those giant rocks and sunk at once if Hera, for love of Jason, had not sped her through. This is a different Greek myth she's referring to. The Argo. What's the myth of the Argo? Anyone familiar with that? There's a movie of it? Yes. The Argo is in Greek myth is the first ship ever built. And it's built for this expedition to go get this thing called the Golden Fleece. It's the skin with the fleece attached to it of a golden ram from a different Greek myth. And a voyage needs to be made across the sea to go get it. And the crew of this ship, it's sort of like an all-star cast of Greek myth. Hercules is there, a bunch of other guys. And the ship they sail on, the guy leading the expedition, his name is Jason, and the ship they sail is called the Argo. And she says the Argo is the only ship that's made it past these rocks because Hera pushed it along past the crashing rocks, and it wasn't destroyed. All right, so we'll continue from line 81. So that's option one after the side to go to the clashing rocks. Doesn't sound like a terribly good option. On the other side, she says, bottom of 273, loom two enormous crags. One thrusts into the vaulting sky its jagged peak, hooded round with a dark cloud that never leaves. No clear, bright air can ever bathe its crown, not even in summer's heat or harvest time. No man on earth could scale it, mount its crest. Not even with 20 hands and 20 feet for climbing, the rocks so smooth, like dressed and burnished stone. And halfway up that cliffside stands a fog-bound cavern gaping west toward Erebus, realm of death and darkness. Past it, great Odysseus, you should steer your ship. No rugged young archer could hit that yawning cave with a winged arrow shot from off the decks. Scylla lurks inside it, the yelping horror, yelping no louder than any suckling pup, but she's a grisly monster, I assure you. No one could look on her with any joy, not even a god who meets her face to face. She has 12 legs, all writhing, dangling down, and 6 long swaying necks, a hideous head on each head barbed with a triple row of fangs thick-set, packed tight, and armed to the hilt with black death. Holed up in the cavern's bowels, from her waist down, she shoots out her heads out of that terrifying pit, angling right from her nest, wildly sweeping the reefs for dolphins, dogfish, or any bigger quarry she can drag from the thousands Amphitrite spawns in groaning seas. No mariners yet can boast they raced their ship past Scylla's lair without some mortal blow. With each of her 6 heads, she snatches up a man from the dark proud craft and whisks him off. The other crag is lower, you will see, Odysseus, though both lie side by side and arrow shot apart. Atop it, a great fig tree rises, shaggy with leaves. Beneath it, awesome Charybdis gulps the dark water down. 3 times a day she vomits it up. 3 times she gulps it down, that terror. Don't be there when the whirlpool swallows down. Not even the earthquake god could save you from disaster. No, hug Scylla's crag, sail on past her top speed. Better by far to lose 6 men and keep your ship than lose your entire crew. Yes, but tell me the truth now, goddess, I protested. Deadly Charybdis, can't I possibly cut and run from her and still fight Scylla off when Scylla strikes my men? So stubborn, the lovely goddess countered. Hell-bent yet again on battle and feats of arms, can't you bow to the deathless gods themselves? Scylla's no mortal. She's an immortal devastation. Terrible, savage, wild, no fighting her, no defense. Just flee the creature. That's the only way. Waste any time arming for battle beside her rock, I fear she'll lunge out again with all of her 6 heads and seize as many men. No, row for your lives. Invoke brute force. I tell you, Scylla's mother, she spawned her to scourge mankind. She can stop the monster's next attack. All right. The other option here, other than the clashing rocks, is what? It's actually another double option. Well, the first one that she tells him about is what? Scylla. And what's the deal with Scylla? What's the deal with Scylla? What is Scylla?
Like a monster.
A monster. What does Scylla look like?
12 legs.
6 heads and 12 legs, yes. And what does she do when you sail past the cliff that she lives in a cave? What does she do if you sail past?
She eats everything.
She eats,
Ship.
not the ship.
The man.
How many men?
6.
6 men, 1 with each of her heads. Right. She'll eat 6 men. The other option here is what? What's this other option here? Scylla on the one side, on the other side. Thrinacia is where he'll get. That's the island of the cattle of the sun. That's where all of these lead to. So Thrinacia you can get to from any of these. But so Scylla is one option here. And what's the other option? Starts with a C. Mentions at the bottom of page 274. Charybdis. Charybdis. And what is Charybdis? The other crag is lower, you will see, Odysseus. They both lie side by side and arrow shot apart. Atop it a great fig tree rises, shaggy with leaves. Beneath it, awesome Charybdis gulps the dark water down. 3 times a day she vomits it up. 3 times she gulps it down, that terror. Don't be there when the whirlpool swallows down. Not even the earthquake god could save you from disaster. No, hug Scylla's crag, sail on past her top speed. Better by far to lose 6 men and keep your ship than lose your entire crew. So what's the deal with Charybdis?
Blowing water and taking.
Right. Is this
2 times a day.
yes, is this whirlpool, this monster that creates a whirlpool. And it only does this cycle 3 times a day of swallowing the water and spitting out again. But if you get caught in that, what happens? Yeah, the whole ship will be destroyed. So notice Odysseus has a bit of an option here. You know, this is a bad option because that's just disaster. But Scylla and Charybdis, what does Circe recommend that Odysseus do? Go past Scylla or past Charybdis? Why Scylla?
There's the last 6 men.
Right, with Scylla you definitely lose 6 men. With Charybdis, on the other hand, what happened with Charybdis?
Covering you lose everything.
Yeah, you could get through fine with Charybdis, or you could lose everything. She recommends,
With Scylla, you can only lose 6 men.
unless you stick around trying to fight her, Calypso says. Scylla, you just lose 6 men, for sure. Charybdis, maybe you'll get through, maybe you'll all die.
How many men does he have?
Not really clear how many he has on the ship. Probably like 50 or something. And what Odysseus, being the clever man that he is, he tries to come up with a way to avoid this. What does he think he can try doing? You know, maybe I can get through without losing any men. How?
You're gonna fight them.
And he says, well, what if I don't go past Charybdis, right? He says here at the top of 275, deadly Charybdis, can't I possibly cut and run from her and still fight Scylla off when Scylla strikes my men? And Circe responds, Scylla's no mortal. She's an immortal devastation, terrible, savage, wild. No fighting her, no defense. Just flee the creature. That's the only way. Waste any time arming for battle beside her rock, I fear she'll lunge out again with all her 6 heads and seize as many men. Like, not a great set of options here. But then let's see what comes after. So starting from line 137. Then you will make the island of Thrinacia, where herds of the sun god's cattle graze, and fat sheep, and 7 herds of oxen, as many sheep flocks rich and woolly, 50 head in each. No breeding swells their number, nor do they ever die. And goddesses herd them on, nymphs with glinting hair, Phaethusa, Lampeti, born to the sun god Helios by radiant Neaera. Their queenly mother bred and reared them both, then settled them on the island of Thrinacia, their homeland seas away, to guard their father's sheep and longhorn cattle. Leave the beasts unharmed, your mind set on home, and you all may still reach Ithaca, bent with hardship, true, but harm them in any way, and I can see it now. Your ship destroyed, your men destroyed as well. And even if you escape, you'll come home late, all shipmates lost, and come a broken man. At those words, Dawn rose on her golden throne, and illustrious Circe made her way back up the island. I went straight to my ship, commanding all hands to take to the decks and cast off cables quickly. 276. They swung aboard at once, they sat to the oars in ranks, and in rhythm churned the water white with stroke on stroke. And Circe, the nymph with glossy braids, the awesome one who speaks with human voice, sent us a hardy shipmate, yes, a fresh following wind ruffling up in our wake, bellying out our sail to drive our blue prow on, as we, securing the running gear from stem to stern, sat back while the wind and helmsman kept her true on course. At last, and sore at heart, I told my shipmates, friends, it's wrong for only 1 or 2 to know the revelations that lovely Circe made to me alone. I'll tell you all so we can die with our eyes wide open now, or escape our fate and certain death together. First, she warns we must steer clear of the sirens, their enchanting song, their meadow starred with flowers. I alone was to hear their voices, so she said, but you must bind me with tight chafing ropes, so I cannot move a muscle bound to the spot, erect at the mast block, lashed by ropes to the mast. And if I plead, commanding you to set me free, then lash me faster, rope on pressing rope. So I informed my shipmates point by point. All the while our trim ship was speeding toward the Sirens' Island, driven on by the brisk wind. But then the wind fell in an instant, all glazed to a dead calm. A mysterious power hushed the heaving swells. The oarsmen leapt to their feet, struck the sail, stowed it deep in the hold, and sat to the oarlocks, thrashing with polished oars, frothing the water white. Now, with a sharp sword, I sliced an ample wheel of beeswax down into pieces, kneaded them in my 2 strong hands, and the wax soon grew soft, worked by my strength and Helios' burning rays, the sun at high noon. And I stopped the ears of my comrades one by one. They bound me hand and foot in the tight ship, erected the mast block, lashed by ropes to the mast, and rowed and churned the whitecaps, stroke on stroke. We were just offshore as far as a man's shout can carry, scudding close, when the sirens sensed at once a ship was racing past, and burst into their high, thrilling song. Come closer, famous Odysseus, Achaea's pride and glory. Moor your ship on our coast so you can hear our song. Never has any sailor passed our shores in his black craft until he has heard the honey voices pouring from our lips. And once he hears to his heart's content, sails on, a wiser man. We know all the pains that the Greeks and Trojans once endured on the spreading plain of Troy when the gods willed it so. All that comes to pass on the fertile earth, we know it all. So they sent their ravishing voices out across the air, and the heart inside me throbbed to listen longer. I signaled the crew with frowns to set me free. They flung themselves at the oars and rowed on harder, Perimedes and Eurylochus springing up at once to bind me faster with rope on chafing rope. But once we left the sirens fading in our wake, once we could hear their song no more, their urgent call, my steadfast crew was quick to remove the wax I'd used to seal their ears and loose the bonds that lashed me. So just as Circe had told Odysseus, they first passed by the sirens, and it goes just as she had told him it should. But notice here on 277, what is it that the sirens are singing that's so attractive to Odysseus, that makes him want to undo these ropes that are tying him and swim over to them on this shore that's littered with the bodies of dead sailors, wrecked ships. What makes him so badly want to jump out of the ship and swim to them, or turn the ship in that direction and wreck it? What do they tempt him with? What do they offer him? What can they give him? 277 there. Lines 200 to 207. What do they offer him? Wine? Nope. Lines 200 to 207 on page 277. Come closer, famous Odysseus, Achaea's pride and glory. Moor your ship on our coast so you can hear our song. Never has any sailor passed our shores in his black craft until he has heard the honeyed voices pouring from our lips. And once he hears to his heart content, sails on a wiser man. We know all the pains that the Greeks and Trojans once endured on the spreading plain of Troy when the gods willed it so. All that comes to pass on the fertile earth, we know it all. What did they promise Odysseus if he comes to them? Knowledge. Knowledge, right? Once he hears to his heart's content, sails on a wiser man. We know it all. They tempt him with knowledge. It's not beauty. It's not sort of physical attraction. Rather, it's knowledge that they tempt him with. All right, we'll pick up there on Friday. So tomorrow PSAT, Thursday test, office hours this afternoon.
Anything